Still don't have their daughter back. It's been a scary week for an Alpharetta family after their 16-year-old daughter with autism disappeared with a much older man she met on the internet.
Yeah, police in New York City just found the girl. They are reuniting her with her family tonight. But the family is furious. Nothing that man did was illegal. Caitlin Ross found out the age of consent in this state is what makes it all okay.
It's the case in most of America. If you're 16, you're legally allowed to have a sexual relationship with anyone who's older than you, no matter how much older. All of the states in yellow, the age of consent is 16. So this 16-year-old's father says he thinks that law is outrageous.
Makes me feel gross. It's just a violation. I feel violated. I am terrified for her. This is, she's been taken advantage of. She's young, she's on the autism spectrum, and there's a 44-year-old man who has taken advantage of her.
So I wanted to bring in Vinnie Politan, a former prosecutor, to talk about how this is legal in the first place. It's really confusing for people, and they want to know, can this man be prosecuted anywhere in Georgia?
All right, when you talk about Georgia at the age of 16, as you pointed out, right? That's the age. So what prosecutors would have to establish and investigators is some form of mental incapacity. And the fact that if she's on that autism spectrum, does that mean she doesn't have the mental capacity of a 16-year-old? If she doesn't, if it's something lower than that, and they have an expert who can come into court and say that, yes, you can prove at that point that she could not consent because she didn't have the mental capacity of a 16-year-old. So that's one way you could do it. It's not easy, but it is one way.
And a lot of people are asking about that age of consent. 16 years old seems really young. There are different places in the United States where that age is older. So is there anywhere else they would be able to prosecute?
Well, let's talk about this case, right? She was found in New York, and you look at New York up here, it's in purple, right? That's 17. So in New York, if the man is over 21, which he is in this case, and she's under 17, and they can prove that they had some sort of sexual relations, then third-degree crime up in New York. So could be prosecuted in New York, but you'd need to prove that they had that relationship, and that would most likely, evidence have to come from her. Is she willing to admit that if she doesn't believe anything wrong has happened here? That will be the tough part for prosecutors if they chose to do something in New York with it.
Yeah, really good points. This is a very tricky case, and I did speak with some Georgia legislators who feel like this law should be changed. So on our website, we have some quotes from them about what they think they might be able to do to make this law different in the future.
All right. Interesting information. Caitlin, thank you very much.